Hi, and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today we're going to talk about Princess Louise. Usually it's just me, but today I have my friend Erin with me. Hi, Erin.
Hey, how you doing?
Very good. I'm excited to talk about Princess Louise.
Oh yeah, me as well.
She's like a hot topic.
Can't think of anything hotter.
Princess Louise was born in the year of our Lord, 1848. She was the sixth child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert of the United Kingdom. So her mom was the Queen Victoria, the famous one. At the time of her birth, she had a 7-year-old sister, Princess Victoria, a 6-year-old brother, Prince Albert, because Victoria and Albert named their first two children Victoria and Albert, a 4-year-old sister named Princess Alice, a 3-year-old brother, Prince Alfred, and a 1-year-old sister, Princess Helena. And then it was Louise, Princess Louise. So the royal couple was averaging a baby every 18 months or so. So there's a lot of royal children, is what I'm saying.
That's a lot.
It's a
That's
lot,
a
yeah.
bunch.
Like every year and a half, they would just add another one.
Oh, well,
Princess Louise's mother, Victoria, turned 30 just after Louise was born. And she slowed a little in having babies, but she was very, very much in love with her husband, Prince Albert. One might say obsessed.
yeah, I feel like I've heard that name before somewhere.
Yes, and sh- they were having a lot of sex, is what I'm saying. They were having a lot of kids. They were having a lot of sex. When Princess Louise was 2, she got a new little brother, Prince Arthur, and 3 years later, Prince Leopold, and 4 years after that, her youngest sister, Princess Beatrice. So Queen Victoria had 9 children, and Louise was 6 of 9. She was part of the 3 middle children that made up the middle children. There was 3 older kids, 3 middle kids, and 3 younger kids. She was
She
in the
missed the
middle
mark.
group.
Oh wow, she could miss the mark. She could have been 7 of 9.
She
You
could have, but that unfortunately went to her little brother Arthur. Prince Arthur was 7 of 9.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard that name before too. No, that's funny.
Yeah. 6 of 9. No more children followed for the next 4 years, and at this point, Queen Victoria was 42, so it was looking like maybe it was just going to be the 9 children. In 1861, the royal children were at this point 21. The oldest, Princess Victoria, was 21. She was a married mother of 2 already.
Time
And
worked a lot different then. Yeah.
the other royal children were 20, 18, 17, 15, 13, 11, 8, and 4. So pretty big age range. 17 years between Princess Victoria and Princess Beatrice. 1861 hadn't started out well. Queen Victoria's mother had died, the Duchess of Kent, and this would have been complicated. Queen Victoria's relationship with her mother had been strained. When she was younger, her mother was super controlling, like super, super controlling. She wasn't even really allowed to have friends. But then she became
Wow.
queen at a really young age, like 19 or 20 or 21. She was really young. She was barely older than a teenager. And when she became queen, and then she was like, oh, I don't have to listen to you anymore. I'm the Queen of England. So, but they were close. It was kind of like a toxic closeness, sort of.
Well, you gotta, yeah. If you only know your mom, then you gotta kind of stick with her, even if you've got all the power.
Yeah, and her dad had died when she was little, so, and she was an only child. So it was her and her mom, and occasionally her mom's boyfriend was around. But her mother had died when Queen Victoria was about 42. And Prince Albert had taken over the state functions while his wife was in mourning because she was really sad about her mom. It was a whole complicated issue. And Prince Albert was like, I can do the official things for you for a while.
That's
But
nice of him.
yeah, because he had been feeling ill. He had, for the last year and a half, probably almost 2 years, he'd been suffering from pretty severe stomach problems. And they didn't really know what
Mm,
it was, but it was a chronic illness. And then
Maybe.
oh, sorry, what?
Oh yeah, maybe old Crohn's disease before they figured that out.
Yeah,
No,
well,
I don't know.
that is one of the theories. One of the theories is that he might have had Crohn's disease, but we'll never know. But that is one of the theories.
Oh wow.
And while he was taking over for his wife and not feeling so well, two of his cousins, one of whom was the King of Portugal and the King of Portugal's brother, they both died of typhoid fever within days of each other.
Coincidence.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, and my cousins died. Like, the King of Portugal is now dead. And rumors are going around that the Prince of Wales, his son, was infatuated with an Irish actress named Nellie Clifton.
Hmm.
I think you can probably tell by the fact that we know that her name is Nellie Clifton that there might be something to those rumors.
Yeah, no, it's like if you know the names, and it's
Mm-hmm.
got to be probably true. Yeah.
It's never good when your name ends up in the history books.
I mean, maybe that's where Nelly got his name, the modern rapper. I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe. Prince Albert was going to get to the bottom of these rumors, and he went to speak to his son. And he was like, look, here's all the problems with dating an Irish actress. You could be blackmailed. There could be a scandal. You could get her pregnant. Like, absolutely not. You are the future king of England. You cannot date an Irish actress that's just some random girl you like. And they had this conversation while walking with each other in the pretty poor November weather. So they're outside, they're walking, they're arguing, he's like, absolutely not, you cannot date this girl. And he's like, but I love her. I'm assuming that's how it went, but I don't actually know what he said. So they went on this walk in the really terrible weather. And the Prince of Wales refused to shut down his relationship with Nellie. He's like, yes, I am with Nellie Clifton, and we're staying together. And Prince Albert returned home the loser. His son's like, absolutely not. I'm staying in this relationship.
That's commitment.
Yeah. And Prince Albert, he returned home, but he was feeling sick again. And then a thing called the Trent Affair happened. And I don't cover any of the war stuff. I skip over all the war stuff, just like bloop, bloop, bloop. And then, but during this time, America is having their Civil War. And Confederate soldiers met with the British on a British ship to like be like, this is why you should be on our side and not their side. And Union forces, I don't even know how they did this, but they forcibly removed the Confederate soldiers from the British ship. So then England was like, you can't just take people off our ships. That's messed up. So then there was maybe going to be war between half of America and England, but America was already fighting America. So
Wow,
it was a
I
big
didn't hear that.
international incident.
Wow, that is crazy.
And so Prince Albert's feeling ill. He's like dealing with his son who's sleeping with an Irish actress. His wife is super sad because her mom died earlier that year. And he goes to negotiate like a truce. And they make a deal that Abraham Lincoln will come out and say, my bad, that was a miscommunication. We didn't mean to just take people off a British ship. That didn't come from me. It was just miscommunication. And then England would be like, okay, you're forgiven. And then they wouldn't have to go to war with each other.
That would have been really different in history if that worked out differently.
Yeah, yeah. Because Lincoln was already fighting all the Confederate soldiers. So, like, he didn't also need to be fighting England.
That makes sense.
And Prince Albert wasn't feeling very well. So he's probably just like, let's just settle this down and I'm going to go home and take a nap.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so both of them are, it's convenient for both of them to not have that happen.
Yeah. And so even though he was super sick and not just with his recurring stomach problems, he had actually gotten sick from walking around with his son in the bad weather. So he was like
Mm,
on top of that also sick and
yikes.
suffering from his stomach pain, and his legs and back were really bothering him a lot.
My goodness. He had
Yeah, he wasn't
all
doing
the
well. He's also in his 40s, but it's not a young 40. It's a little bit of an
right.
older 40.
It's not like a 60-year-old 40 or something.
Yeah, yeah. So Abraham Lincoln was like, "My bad, guys. Not my orders. We'll not take people off your ships anymore." And I'm sure they had a deal like stop meeting with the Confederates and we won't have to take them off your ships. But
That makes
they,
sense.
there was an incident. So by December, Prince Albert had been diagnosed with typhoid fever, the same thing that his cousins had died of earlier that year. He now had typhoid fever.
Oof.
And 5 days after they diagnosed him with typhoid fever, he died at Windsor Castle in the Blue Room in the presence of his wife, Queen Victoria, and five of his nine children.
My goodness. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good record there for typhoid, 3 for 3.
Yeah, yeah, it was not something you wanted.
Yeah.
It has been suspected by modern historians that his stomach pain for 2 years leading up to this death could have indicated Crohn's disease or kidney failure or abdominal cancer.
All terrible things.
Yeah, so they're like, he had something else going on. Like the typhoid is probably what killed him, but he had other stuff going on because he was
The,
suffering from
the
pretty
final
severe
nail.
stomach issues. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Queen Victoria was like, no, the typhoid killed him. And that means that my stupid, slutty son, who just walked around with him for hours in the rain, killed my husband. So she was
Ooh.
really mad at her son, the future King of England, for, as she saw it, killing her husband, who she was obsessed with and in love with. So yeah, so Queen Victoria blamed her son for killing her husband. She's like, if you weren't so slutty and sleeping with that Irish actress, you wouldn't have had to have that talk in the rain, and he wouldn't have gotten typhoid, and he wouldn't have died.
Yeah, definitely couldn't have helped. I'm not sure if it was his fault though, but I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah, I
happens.
mean, no one made Albert. Albert is married to the Queen of England. Nobody made him walk in the rain. He's a grown up, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. She was mad. She wore black for the rest of her life, and she visited his gravesite every day.
Wow, that's commitment.
Commitment. She was in love, and he died. It's very sad. So all
Ooh.
of this happened when Princess Louise was just 13 years old. So this is like when she's just starting to be a teenager. This is her life. And
That's yeah,
her
that's a lot.
teenage years weren't the happiest. It wasn't like the most fun teenage experience. And it's the Victorian era, so just like longing glances are a huge scandal. Fun is not thriving in Victorian England. For her 17th birthday, Princess Louise requested that she be thrown a debutante ball. She wanted a boyfriend for her birthday, and she wanted a party saying, this girl is ready to date. And her mother said no. Like, absolutely not. You can't have
No sweet 16 party, huh?
no sweet 17.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
You're just, and she definitely didn't get one the year before that, so no sweet 16 either.
Yep, 16, 17. It's kind of crazy that it was a year after 16 in that time period.
Yeah. Well,
But
because
yeah,
at
I mean,
17, she would have been like, well, it's time for me to, like, if I want to be married by the time I'm 18, I need to start dating by the time I'm 17.
that makes sense.
And her mother had thought it'd only been 4 years since her father's death, so it was too soon. We can't just start throwing parties in the castle. Like, your father died 4 years ago. We can't have a party. But poor girl didn't get a 13th. Well, maybe she got a 13th. She didn't get a 14th or a 15th or a 16th or a 17th birthday party.
Oh man.
Instead, she got a job.
Ew.
She was now, because her mother wouldn't let her have a party and get a boyfriend, she was now the oldest unmarried daughter of the queen. So by tradition, it was her job to be her mother's secretary.
What a
Woo!
bum deal. That's a bum deal.
Yeah, she wanted a boyfriend, and instead she gets her mom for her boss.
Yikes.
And Louise was good at it. She was a very good secretary. Victoria wrote shortly afterwards about her daughter. She is, and who would have thought some years ago, a clever girl with a fine, strong character, unselfish and affectionate. So, I guess that's nice.
Yeah,
She's
that
like,
she
she
has a
was
place
like
in
kind
life.
of a bratty kid, but like, who knew she was going to turn out so well? I don't know. It seems a little passive aggressive.
It does. Yeah, that's
And
I don't know.
part of her job as her mother's secretary, part of that job is to hang out and keep her mother company. Like, personal assistant slash best friend. That's what her job is to Queen Victoria.
Yeah, wow, what a different transition than you'd think that you'd want.
She just wanted a boyfriend.
I know.
So here's Princess Louise. She's 18. She works for her mother. no boyfriends, and she's a daughter who had never rebelled. She was very well behaved. And then she fell in love. 18-year-old
Oh,
Princess Louise fell in love with her brother's tutor, 32-year-old Reverend Robinson Duckworth,
what a name.
the only non related man she probably knew, because where's she gonna meet a boy?
That makes sense.
He, like, works for her mother, and she's like, oh, he could be a boyfriend. Reverend Robinson Duckworth. He sounds cool.
I think he's related to Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. I wrote in my notes, get it, Louise. So, this relationship, in air quotes, because it's the Victorian era, so again, longing glances are the peak of scandal. Like, we're loosely using the word relationship, but it lasted 4 years. 4 years of, like, longing looks. I don't know. Like,
And don't show your the back of your hand or the front of your
yeah.
hand.
Or
That's
your ankle? God forbid.
absolutely.
She really
That's
liked the
terrible.
Reverend. But her mother dismissed her boyfriend because her brother no longer needed a teacher. That's the problem with dating your brother's teacher.
Mm.
Is eventually your brother doesn't go to school anymore and he doesn't need a teacher.
Oh, unfortunate.
Good news is he had a different teacher to teach him different stuff.
Mm.
And so she fell in love with this new guy, Walter Sterling, the new tutor of her brother Leopold. So she may have had a type. She was just like, I'm really into these brainy guys who keep showing up to teach my brothers things.
That's
And
fun.
yeah, and word on the street was that she got pregnant. But like we don't know. It's a
That'd
rumor.
be really far from the glances and the showing of
Mhm.
ankle.
Well,
Yeah.
according to Louise's biographer, Lucinda Hawksley, her son Henry was born in 1866, and after he was born, the Queen's lawyers were summoned to the residence. And the Queen's obstetrician, Frederick Locock, and his wife adopted a son named Henry immediately after that meeting.
Mm.
So
Gotta hide
there's
the baby.
right, there's a lot of like circumstantial evidence where you're like, that looks sus.
Yeah.
And like there was a baby. A baby came from somewhere. And like, I don't know. So we don't know for sure, but it sounds like a cover up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it sounds like some pretty um, convicting evidence. Like very difficult to explain that
Hmm.
away.
The boy supposedly grew up with the royal children, like he knew them, and claimed to have been Louise's child. And DNA testing has been sanctioned by Henry's descendants, but the courts ruled the claims unfounded. They're like, no need for that.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That would
It's
be so
it
crazy.
screams sus, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, what if you had the royal lineage, but you never got recognized? So then,
mm-hmm.
so well, then your life is more like a commoner life than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah. And his descendants are like, yeah, do it. We want to know too. Like, we're just as interested as the next guy. And the courts are like, nope, sorry, you don't have enough proof there. So that's a mystery. We may never know. So Louise's job as her mother's secretary included dealing with all of her correspondence. So everyone who wrote the queen a letter, which was a lot more back then than it is now, she had to read them all. She responded to them. She wrote letters back, acting as her mother. And part of her job was keeping her mother company. And sometimes royal functions, like she inaugurated a children's hospital once, and she launched a ship once. You know when they with the wine bottle and they hit it on the ship. She did that once.
That seems like one of the more exciting tasks.
Yeah, she got out of the palace, so she probably saw a man
Right.
that wasn't her brother or her brother's teacher. Her one notable relationship, well, you could argue she maybe had two. She had the 4-year relationship with the Reverend, and then the guy who she may or may not have had a baby with. I would say that was a significant relationship, notable if that happened.
Yeah, we kept that under wraps.
Yeah. She was still the oldest unmarried daughter of Queen Victoria, and she was starting to be seen as the most beautiful of Queen Victoria's daughters. So, like, she was cute, and the men were starting to notice that she was cuter than her sisters.
Interesting.
The press accused her of romantic affairs with more than just the Reverend. Like, the rumors were out there that she was in other relationships. It was all over page 6. And this caused people to see her as a liberal feminist. Gasp.
Really? Way
Yes.
back time.
They were
Wow.
like, she likes to date, so she must be a liberal feminist. And also, the dates
Uh,
may not have happened, but rumor was they were happening. It was just a whole
wow.
lot of gossip. But she
She
was a
sounded
liberal
like
feminist, and they were like, no, we can't have that.
wow. That she was being followed around by all the dirty newspapers at that time. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, the Paps were just chasing her down. Her mother decided to cure her liberal feminism by finding her a husband, because that's how you cure it.
Wow.
So,
That's how it worked out for her.
yeah, no boyfriend until now you're getting married. Sorry. Let's speed this up. So the search was on to find Princess Louise a husband, and not just one that pleased Princess Louise, but also pleased her mother, the Queen, because Queen Victoria was definitely having a say in who her daughter was getting married to.
Yeah, makes sense.
Queen Victoria's first stipulation, the most important, her non negotiable for this spouse of her daughter, was that he had to live close because she didn't want Louise to move away. So,
Can't get rid of your best secretary.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it had to be. She wanted an Englishman who lived in England, preferably London. Louise was then offered a smorgasbord of men who were all deemed acceptable for one reason or another. They were just like, it was like reverse Cinderella. They were just lining them up and they were like, pick one, and that'll be the one you marry. And some of them were not, some of them were struck off the list because they were not as acceptable as they thought. Like one of them lived openly with a lover, it was just common knowledge.
Whoa, that's
And
crazy.
one of them was Danish, and the queen was like, hell no, no Danes.
It's like the Bachelorette, but you got the
Yeah,
mom on.
yep. There was no telling you what would get off this list. Like, maybe you have a lover that everybody knows about. Maybe you're Danish. You just get chopped off the list. So, Louise, her stipulation was she didn't want to marry a prince. She
Hmm,
wanted to marry a commoner, a noble, not a commoner, a nobility, but not royal.
interesting.
She wanted to marry the Marquess of Lorne, who would be a future duke. His father was a duke. So when his father died, he would be a duke, but not a royal duke. So this hadn't happened in a long time. In the 1870s, daughters of the monarchs were seen as property of the crown. The last time an English princess had been given permission to marry a duke was when King Henry VIII's sister Mary eloped with Henry's best friend, Duke Charles Brandon. And all of that drama is in Catherine Willoughby's episode. So I'm just going to soft plug myself. And
Absolutely.
if you're
Crazy.
listening to this
That's
in the future, when this episode comes out, this won't be true. But if you're listening to this episode in the future, Princess Mary will have an episode. I haven't made it yet. And that happened 300 years before. So that was the last time that a princess married a commoner in England.
wow, super
Or not a
rare.
commoner, nobility. I should stop calling him a commoner. No, a princess married a non-royal in England. Most of them married princes of other countries for alliances. So, and the queen awkwardly pointed out that this marriage would bring new blood into the family because for centuries they'd been inbreeding and now the royal family was affected by hemophilia. And she was like, look, we have a problem. Let's try not marrying our cousin this time.
Yeah, that definitely was one of the biggest issues that people know that study genetics. Yeah,
Yeah. And Queen Victoria's own son had hemophilia. He died of it. And so did several of her grandsons.
my goodness, not good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's as good a reason as any to marry somebody. He's not your cousin. Like, put that on the top of your list. He lives close, and he's not your cousin.
Yeah, those are
Princess Louise married Marquess John Campbell on the 21st of March, 1871. Princess Louise was 3 days past her 23rd birthday, and His Grace John Campbell was 25. So, reasonable ages. We don't always get that. No one was 12, and no one was 50. So, that's the goal. This episode was brought to you by my Patreon supporters, my patrons. The rest of the episode will be on Patreon, so join us over there if you want to hear those. And you can join for free and get ad-free versions of all my videos. So see you there.
Will be remembered.
Thanks for listening.